and welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting of Osoyoos Town Council, Monday, November the 6th, 2017 at 9 a.m. in Council Chambers. And we do have introduction of late items. That would be the museum. Okay.
Museum roof, yes.
Pardon me?
Museum roof.
Museum roof.
The leaking.
Yes.
Museum roof.
Okay. So with that addition to business one, could we have a motion, please, to accept the agenda as adjusted? Thank you very much. That would be Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Youngberg, all in favor. Thank you. First, we have two delegations today at our meeting, and first is the Osoyoos gift cupboard, and it's a presentation by Brenda DeRoche and Gay Horn, and I'm assuming Jen Shields is working.
San Francisco.
Oh, I hope it's warmer there. So, thank you for coming and speaking to us. You have written us a letter, but if you'd like to speak, would you please come up to the microphone? Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and councillors. Thank you for allowing us to come speak to you. Now, first thing I want to share with you this morning is no one else has this information. Gay and I have just come from the elementary school, and there's a new teacher there, Kristen Maxwell, and she's started a culture club there. So we have just picked up 391 pairs of socks that the children have gathered. So that's for our gift cupboard, and we're going to use it in the gift cupboard and, you know, with homeless people and stuff. So there will be an article. We have to go over to the Times after this, and they did take a picture, but we were so excited. She phoned me a couple weeks ago, and I thought, oh, maybe, 50 pairs of socks. 391 socks, so that was amazing. So just sharing that this morning because we were very overjoyed when we got there. So this morning we're here to talk about Vince. I think we all know the history for the gift cupboard. We just had our 1-year anniversary, and we've started out as a little box outside, and we've just blossomed hugely. And this time of year, last year, it wasn't this cold, but now it is colder this year. And looking forward to, we've helped about 7 people, I think, in the last week with sleeping bags and just warm clothing and stuff, the homeless people we find on the streets. But the one we all seem to care about and everyone keeps coming to us is Vince. And I think everybody in this room knows Vince, our lifelong little project here in Osoyoos. So Vince and I have had several conversations, as a lot of other people, and he's looking for a spot to safely put his tent. And I know there's been issues in the past with Vince, and what we're prepared to do and other people are prepared to help us with is if he has a spot to call his own, we have lots of donations for him. I have a whole bunch of stuff in my basement, and people are willing to, I don't know the correct word, maybe police it on a daily basis to make sure Vince keeps things tidy, to make sure he's following rules as best he can. Now, what's happening with Vince is his health is going downhill. He has really bad arthritis, and the cold is not making that any better. I've been in contact with a biological sister and a foster sister. His foster sister's in Oliver. So we've had conversations with her, and Vince is being, he's getting some help through Interior Health. But I think most of you know Vince doesn't want a house. He doesn't want to live inside. What he's asked us to help him with is a space for his tent. He wants to be able to put a tarp up and keep his stuff there. Because as we know, Public Works knows, a lot of times they have to go around cleaning up his little piles. So, if we have a spot to help him, that's his spot, and it'll be, Vince, these are your things. They need to be in your spot. You can't leave them all over town anymore. So there's a lot of volunteers that are wanting to help us, to help Vince just have a spot and stay warm for the winter. I know it's a big ask. We're not wanting to set a precedent in any way for anyone else. We're just wanting to help Vince. He's getting older. He's got health issues. He's suffering from mental health. He's suffering from alcoholism. We just want to try to help other residents that have come forward so we can together try to help him. And in that, I did a bit of research and I found a BC court decision from 2008 that states municipalities that do not have shelter beds available are allowing people and homeless people to have a public space to rest their heads. And that's from Section 7, the right to life, liberty, and security of the person under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So basically what that says is what other municipalities in British Columbia are doing is allowing persons, homeless people, to have a spot from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. in any public space or public park. Now, not all municipalities have followed that, but there are several because of this court decision. There's 2. But because of this one was in 2008 through the Supreme Court. So all we're asking is for Vince to have a spot. Now, in several conversations with Vince, where he would really, really like to be is by Peanut Pond. So at the back of Smitty's, down below, so close to Smitty's, there's trees there. And he would like to be there. And just put his tent and put his tarp there. Now, I don't know if that would work. The only other spot where he says he would like to have a house is on the end of Pioneer Walkway, the washrooms, and then there's trees on the lakeside. He wants to hide a tent in there. And that idea to me didn't seem feasible at all. And the only other one that some residents have come forward to us is across, on the other side of the bridge, across from Ambrosia. So across from Ambrosia, where the boat trailer parking is, at the bottom, there's kind of, before the mailboxes, there's a little spot there, and there's a few trees there. They have said, well, couldn't he be there tucked up against the side of, like a side of the hill, a side below the road there. I think that's not very sheltered area there, and I could see people not being comfortable maybe going for their mail and stuff there. So, I mean, we've also talked to Pastor Phil. He, of course, helps Vince when he can, but because of the mobility issues, none of us can see him getting up to the Baptist church. He does have mobility issues now, and Pastor Phil said there's no way he feels that Vince will get up there safely and get back down, because he likes to stay in the central core. So that's where we're sitting. We're just pleading that maybe you have a suggestion that we can help Vince. We have all these donations for him, and we've given him lots so far, but I have all this stuff from people, and we don't want to give it to him until we maybe have a spot that is his, and he will look after his things. And I just want to reiterate again, we have a lot of people that are willing to help us. I'm very busy. Gay's, retired, so she looks after Vince a lot of the time, but I drive around and check for Vince every day after work. And there's so many people that are wanting to help and participate. And his sister in Oliver is doing the best she can, and she takes him once a week right now up to Interior Health. I'm not sure who he sees, if it's a family doctor, or I'm not sure. But she is, she does take him once a week to get checked. So.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you and your committee. And I know that there are many, many, many people in this town who over the years have helped Vince and other people in several different ways. I think Vince is lucky that he has a very supportive community to deal with. And I've known Vince since he was in my grade 1 class.
Yes. We were trying to get him to tell us how old he was, and he said 56.
I think it's about mid-50s.
I think that's about right.
Yeah. So I do know that there are people who feed Vince. Smitty's has always been very good. I'm sure there are other places.
He gets a meal a day there?
Yes.
Yeah.
There are people who have provided clothing for him over the years that I know of. And I think the community looks after him extremely well. That being said, I'm sure at this type of climate right now, which is a little colder than we usually have, it's difficult for him to manage. I'm not exactly sure legally what we can do, but we could certainly, I believe, look at this, and I'm put the floor open to any other councillors who would like to make any comments on this issue. Councillor
Okay.
Jim.
Monday morning. Thank you, Madam
It's
Mayor.
Monday, sorry.
Brendan,
Go ahead,
thanks very much
Councillor
for being
King.
concerned about one of our fellow citizens. I think that's a great idea. I guess a couple of comments. I don't know if you've thought of actually housing him up at where you work on the vineyard, where it would be like a 10. He could be presumed as a picker. I don't think he'd be bothering anybody. And all your nucleus is there to support him. Has that ever been talked about?
So it has. I'm way up on the East Bench. So all of our vineyards that we manage are way up on the,
Okay.
we're talking Gail Hochsteiner and above.
Yeah. Okay.
So we have talked about that. We actually took Vince up there, my husband and I, in the summer, and he said, no, I can't be here.
far?
I'm not,
Okay.
it's too far. We have some homeless people that I've found on the street that are now living there, and we put them to work today. Hopefully they're going to pick some grapes. So all they wanted was electricity, so they're living in their van. They've been living in town for almost a month now, and they didn't have a job, but they have a dog. So they can't go to a monthly hotel area, right? So we've given them an extension cord and let them hook into power, so at least they have a heater. So that's something that we have offered to Vince in the summer, you know, and we talked, but it's too far out of town for him. And I, with his mobility, I can see that. But that was one of the first things we did was, well, Vince, come live up here.
And
Yeah,
none
no.
of your other group lives closer to town? That
No,
might-
so we're all, like, my
Way up
house is
there?
up there, and
Okay,
all our
okay,
vineyards are up
okay.
there.
And I,
And we just don't want to set a precedent either, right?
that's the tough decision we have.
Yeah.
I guess on another note, I guess Vince does have good days and bad days. He just happened to see him this morning walking across 97 and Highway 3, smiling, waved at me, I waved
Yeah.
at him, and he seemed like he didn't have an issue today. He's got his big
Yeah.
Parker on that I presume
Yeah, you must
your
have a
group
new
might have given
coat.
to
Yeah,
him.
his
and-
sister bought that for
yeah,
him, so
whoever.
he's,
I mean, he
he's
looked
nice and warm.
happy, and I don't know where he was strolling south on Highway 3, so today he must be having a good morning.
Yeah.
This is the first I heard about the legalities you brought up there under some section. I'm sure with the staff will look into that just to confirm that. The hard part is, I guess, though, once you do it for one, those people that you're boarding up there now are going to come down and ask for the same thing.
And you know, that's something that we're very aware of, but not to start a big other conversation. As a community of 5,000 people, it's going to happen. And we have last week, 2 weeks ago, there was 2 people that were given bus tickets apparently to come here for services from the Lower Mainland. Now, I have a lady looking into that because I just don't have the time right now. I can't see that being true, but apparently it's happening from social services down there. They're full. Their shelter beds are full. They're being sent to the Okanagan. Well, the closest we have is the new shelter in Penticton. So I don't know if that's true. That's what they said to us. There was one fellow in behind A&W 7-Eleven, so we took care of him 3 nights in a row.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there was a lady, she walks around with her shopping cart, but she's since moved on to Penticton again. She's from Penticton, came down here, looked for services, went back there. So I think we're going to get more because they're up the valley, they're pushing down, right? I don't know if we
Yeah,
will,
I can
and we certainly don't want to start something, right?
Yeah, I can respect what you're saying. We're supposed to be warmer. I mean, it doesn't look at it now.
Yeah.
But I guess I just go back to the comment. It's hard to start with one that you're going to have
Yeah.
with 2, 3, 4, and that little spot with a tent's going to be tent city. So then it becomes a major issue.
And
So that's where we've got to
Yeah.
help try to make the
Yeah.
decision.
And then I know there's a bathroom issue as well, right? So which parts are open, Goodman and Marina during the day? Is that the only 2 bath
Yes, and
Right.
Town Hall.
and Town Hall? So I guess if Vince were to go down there, he'd maybe have access here, but I don't think he'd ever come in. I don't know.
Well, there's also a bathroom at Home Hardware. And,
Yeah, I know he goes- he
and
uses
certainly the
that.
restaurants and so on too. So I
Yeah.
think there probably are enough around.
I'm sure,
Yeah.
I'm sure he likes the peanut pond because his connection with Wendy. That
Yeah, and it's
stinks.
sheltered.
It's
and stuff.
He can
breakfast.
always go to the bathroom
Breakfast.
there. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they provide at least 1 meal a day.
Yes.
Good Karma always also provides meals. And through the gift cupboard, we have a not secret, I guess. We have a password with New Leaf. So if we find homeless people, we give them our password and they can go in and get a free meal. And the gift cupboard, and between us and New Leaf, we did that all last winter. And we're doing that again this winter. So they can, if we find someone, we give them the word, they go in and we'll take care of the bill or New Leaf donates it. We don't advertise that because we don't
No.
want everyone coming saying we want a free meal.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
go ahead,
a comment.
Councillor Youngberg.
Yes, he's got his stuff behind my house at the moment.
I know. He
And,
said he's been sleeping there for 3 days.
Yes.
I don't know.
Well, he did build a little shelter
Yeah.
down there. And of course, he was up on the top part by my shed, or by my shop. But, it's just as Councillor King's saying, is that within a little while, I don't know, he's maybe there a week, and before you know it, there's 4 other guys there with him. So I went down and just said, no,
Yeah.
we can't do this, Vince. So
Yeah.
move your stuff down, get it organized. So I just do have a little bit of a concern about where we do put them, if we can,
Yeah.
that it's just going to be so well supervised by your group of people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because
Would have
that's
to
the
be.
only way that we'll be able
Absolutely.
to, eliminate the fact that it'll grow into a tent city.
right.
But, yes, I know it's cold, and we've offered him the shop many, many years in a row, but he just, no
He doesn't
way.
want to be inside.
No,
No.
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 So,
Councillor Campbell.
I
Thank
don't know
you.
what the answer is.
So that's exciting news about the Sox this morning, for sure.
Yes.
That's very cool.
Yes.
And I follow what the gift cupboard's been doing, and I think it's amazing stuff. One of my concerns, and I guess it's just to add on to what Councillor King was saying, is there's no doubt this community feels Vince as a staple in our community. And I love the fact that citizens are that concerned, especially with the cold weather, to ensure that he's got shelter and can stay warm. To me, I think it's more of a statement than a question, is I think that we need to do these things or have these conversations quietly and look for solutions. And when we talk about the fact that potentially a homeless person is getting a lot of help in the community, and now we're coming to the municipality to see if there's any resources available there. The concern I guess I have is with this discussion before this point happening through the media, on radio stations and in newspapers, is that going to start bringing people into the valley knowing that this is a place that'll happen, and potentially the town will take care of shelter and things like that. That was my first thought when I saw this conversation happening in the media before it happened here.
So the letter went out to Town Council on September 12th, and I did get a response from Barry on September 13th. We were offered an earlier date, but just our schedules, we couldn't get here sooner. So that's 2 months, I guess.
Okay.
Since.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Member Kordoff. Well, I have a great deal of empathy for the situation that we're going on, and I'm glad you brought that precedent up. That was kind of nurtured in the city of Victoria, where they were having some issues with, the problem, or not necessarily a problem, but the area that they had designated was spreading exponentially every year and getting bigger and bigger. So the legislation is not enforceable, but it is definitely a guideline for municipalities to follow. And, my empathy extends to Vince because I have lots of personal things in my life and that kind of thing that are very, very similar to those kinds of situations. In the past, Lisa and I have given Vince lots of clothing. He slept in our garage a few nights when it was cold out. And the problem is not with people wanting to give to him, and I know I'm kind of, repeating and echoing what's been said already, is at the time he's grateful but doesn't really want people interfering with his lifestyle all that much and that kind of thing. And, I've offered this year that he can set his tent up in my yard of my business. One of the issues that I have is I have to lock it up every night because it has, a chain link around the perimeter, and that caused him a lot of concerns and that kind of thing. So it's a bit of a problem. One of the things that we cannot do is we cannot encourage him to set up on private property unless the property owner does that. And with public property and that kind of thing, I think you nailed all of the issues that we would have. We have to be careful about where it is and how it's set up and that kind of thing. But I don't know what our next steps are. I'd like to talk about that a little bit as well. identifying the problem. It's very, very clear, and I think everybody wants to do something, but what do you do? So next steps are always an issue, and they require some discussion. I don't know what we can do about public lands. I suppose we can just wave that wand and say you can go here and do that kind of thing. I think we're empowered to do that, but where are we going to do that is the question that needs to be answered. There definitely is not an unwillingness or anything along that line not to be able to do something. So if we could nail down a particular spot that would work, then we can find out whether that would be acceptable from a municipality point of view.
I think us, Jen's not here to speak, but we've had several conversations about it, and then with those volunteers that have come forward that want to help, we want to not have a decision. We want to be careful. We want to be careful. We want the municipality to be careful. But I think more than anything, an awareness, and if we can help him have a more secure location. But I know it's not going to happen today. We don't expect it to happen overnight, but we're willing to be part of the conversation, and we'd like to be part of the conversation going forward and see what we can do.
CAO Romanko, would you like to speak on that?
Thank you. First, speaking to the legislation, that legislation is put in place to give people a safe place at night. So they, from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., they have a place to go to. And supposedly they're supposed to pick up their tent and leave after that. This is not a lodging. I think what's happened is that it's become, in other communities, a place that becomes a tent city, and just because of the numbers. I think that certainly we'll have to, council has a couple options. You can move for a decision this afternoon or a discussion on today's agenda without a staff report. You can take a look at moving it to the November 20th, and we'll pull together a staff report. One of the cautions that always needs to be in place is what is the municipality's responsibilities, and what is our standard of care. When a municipality moves into areas like this, the public expectations and the expectations of service change, and that's specifically in around liabilities to the municipality. And those liabilities include, and it was mentioned, things like washroom facilities. If you go to those facilities, they have washroom facilities. There is, there are the support mechanisms in place that support that particular legislation, and the municipalities take on that responsibility. So the caution of providing a service that probably enables a lifestyle that's detrimental to a person's health is something that is really something a municipality has to be cautious about. And so those are the types of things I think we need to explore. Yes, being empathetic is something we really want to do as a community, but we have responsibilities as a municipality relative to location, community impacts, and ramifications down the road of what happens. Just in discussions of potential sites, much of the land around Peanut Pond I don't know that it would be considered public land. I would have to take a look at that. I think there are some things around Peanut Pond that are special. I don't know if it extends right around Peanut Pond, but ownership of properties extends into the off the shore into the lake, and I'd have to take a look at that.
Sure. Thank you very much. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. This is certainly a tough one, and one of the things that's unique about this situation is, I don't know how to put this politically correct, but Vince is an anomaly when it comes to the homeless community, meaning, and I think this is why the residents in Osoyoos do take care of him, is because he doesn't ask for anything, for one, and he's just a very pleasant individual that, says hello to everybody and just a very friendly man. What I do think, though, is sometimes these anomalies or these one-off situations can start a bigger conversation about homelessness in our communities. And for me, to CAO Romenko's point of where do we go from here, I don't think we're at a point where a decision can be made to solve what you're asking right now. However, it'd be interesting to see a report or an understanding of what our homeless community really is here. You know, and maybe that's some information to the RCMP, or I'm not sure, and understand how big an issue this really is, and look for real situations in a bigger picture. Not to say, and I'm not suggesting by any means that nothing can happen here for what you're asking, Vince, but I think something good that comes out of these things is we bring something to light that we could have a real meaningful conversation about, and look toward solutions for the whole issue as a whole.
Councillor Rhodes?
Okay, with that in mind, I'd like to suggest maybe a report on November 20th. I think it would be premature to do it this afternoon. I don't know whether we'd have any information to discuss this afternoon. In the interim, if things get nasty or he requires care of other things, I'm sure that there are members of the community that will step up to the plate and stop a disaster. One of the frustrating things about dealing with municipalities is the bureaucracy that we all have to live with and go through and that kind of thing. But waiting until the 20th for a staff report would be a very, very good thing for us to do, because it would add information that perhaps we don't know already, and that would be vital in making a decision. And just to echo Councillor Campbell's comments, maybe there is a bigger picture here that we need to address, and that homeless situation can be part of our future planning and that kind of thing. And I think we have enough resources in the community from private residents to look after any immediate needs that he may have.
So are you making a motion to ask for a staff report? Good.
Yeah, I think that would be
I second that.
Yeah, I think
kind of where I'm
everybody,
heading now.
absolutely. So Councillor Youngberg seconded that. All in favor of that? Thank you very much. So thank you for coming forward, and we will certainly continue to deal with this.
Thank you. And my last response is we didn't mean to do this to start a precedent, and I understand it might turn into something more, but that's, we were just trying to look after Vince and
That's why
start a
that's
conversation.
why I made the
Media
point I made is
media.
I'm not suggesting that that's the case at all. But sometimes that's just the outcome of something like this.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't have to be seen as a bad, negative thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it starts a conversation that needs to happen and be part of our planning moving forward, right?
Yeah. And just as a side note, we did talk to the RCMP and Pastor Phil, who have a big connection, right? So we have spoken to them because we go out every second night if time allows us to help people. So they have a better understanding of where people are. So.
I think everybody in town and all of the agencies and volunteers certainly have a pretty clear understanding of
Absolutely.
the needs of Vince and probably other people. So thank you very much
Thank you for your
coming.
time.
Thank you.
Okay, our next delegation is from the Osoyoos Golf Course. Have you got any spare places up there that you'd like to have a tent city? Barry's house is right across the street from, okay, perfect. So, thank you. This is Herb Witcherly, and I am assuming that is Paul Dominato. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you. Mayor McCordoff, councillors, and staff, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I am Herb Witcherly, and I am here representing the Osoyoos Golf Club as the new board chair. With me today is Paul Dominato, and he is an executive member on our board also. Normally, we would come here with our general manager, but we have just gone through a process of hiring a new general manager who will start with us the middle of this month. His name is Doug Robb. He's a very experienced golf course manager. We're looking forward to having Doug with us, and I'm looking forward to being able to introduce him to you folks, to our community, and to our club members. Paul is here today to present a proposed partnership project that we think at the golf course is beneficial to our club, our course, and to the town. Following Paul's presentation, we'd be welcome to answer any of your questions that you might have after seeing the presentation. So now I'll let Paul come up and present. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
It's a little bit weird being on this side of the table. In my past career, I was a city manager, so.
Oh, where?
New Westminster, actually.
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah.
And have you not just moved here recently?
I've been here full-time now for 3 years,
Okay.
part-time since 2010, actually.
Good.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. So anyway, I just wanted to start off with a little bit of history, and it actually goes back to the early 60s, and it was Mayor Chuck Emery who had a vision for developing the treatment facility and the golf course on the land that we currently occupy, and it was 135 acres that was owned by the province, and the town in that day convinced the province to donate that land for that purpose, and I think there was maybe seven or 8 years of struggle there to try to get things going, and in the late 60s, society was formed that's still in existence today, and that's the membership of the golf course. And the golf course started developing in the early 70s, and I believe the first 9 holes were open in 1973, and that's kind of what we're focusing on here today. And then there's several expansions after that into 18 holes and 27 holes and eventually 36 holes, and also the construction of the new clubhouse that took place. And that's what it looked like when the first 9 holes were finished and the new ponds were installed. The course started using effluent for irrigation in 1980, and there was an operational certificate put in place by BC Environment at that time that still exists today, that's connected to the lease document. And so it's used by the golf course, by Desert Park, and by the sports fields as well. The golf course uses about 90% of the effluent that's extracted from the ponds for irrigation. And so that's about 150 million gallons in the golf season, and that's the equivalent of emptying 275 Olympic-sized swimming pools every season. So it's a lot of water. There are challenges to using effluent, and I've kind of outlined some of those, but basically it's quite a bit more maintenance for the golf course. There has to be a lot more aeration because there's crusting that happens with the use of the water. We have to flush our greens once a month, and so that makes it difficult to have greens that are very fast, and that's what golfers want, is fast, firm greens. So we have to do a lot of extra work to try to achieve that. There's chemical imbalances that have to be adjusted, so we use quite a bit more fertilizer, not necessarily for growing the turf, but for balancing the soil chemistry. And we're one of the few golf courses that we know of that actually use 100% effluent. We know of other courses that use effluent. It's usually mixed with fresh water in different percentages depending on the availability in that particular area. But we do use 100%. So it's had some challenges. The irrigation system itself is 45 years old plus, and of course at the time those were installed, there's no isolation valves and no as-built drawings. So when we do have a breakdown, it's a bit of an issue. The entire system for that 9 holes has to be drained and has to be recharged. So again, it presents some challenges and presents some risk both to ourselves and to the town in terms of continuing to extract water on a regular basis. We've tried to put a few dollar figures around the risk, but if we did get into a situation where there was a major failure and it took several days to repair, there is a risk of losing greens, and it costs about $20,000 to restore a green, and then they're offline for 4 to 6 weeks. So it's quite a major impact from the golf end of things, and of course from the water use end of things. If it's at peak season, could present some issues as well. In terms of where we're at with the project, we've had the system redesigned by an engineering firm that specializes in irrigation. The initial pricing came in at $1.58 million, and so we went back and looked at where there might be some cost savings, some design changes to save some money. We haven't had it repriced officially since that time. We're still looking at further changes and looking at some phasing options and different things. We're looking at other grant opportunities as well. And what we're requesting from the town, we threw in a sort of a general guideline of a third, but if in terms of a dollar figure, we are asking for around $300,000 from the town. And if we can get that firmed up through your budget process, then we would be able to proceed and look for other partners and other sources of funding. We're going to continue with the existing system, obviously, until we have that funding and that plan in place. Again, there is some risk involved with that, but we're looking at ways of mitigating that risk over the short term, so that we can obviously we can continue operating. I just threw in a few slides about the economic impact of golf, and it's not very often you see Canadian economic impact studies done, and this one is Canadian. It was done by an organization called NAGA. It's the National Alliance of Golf Associations. There's 5 or 6 golf associations in Canada. One of them represents superintendents. One represents managers. There's the Canadian PGA. There's an owners association. So there's 5 or 6 of those. They had this study done. It's been done twice now. And the last time was in 2014. So it's 2013 data. But pretty big industry in Canada, and fairly significant contribution to the GDP, just locally and nationally, and obviously lots of tourism development as a result of it. The 1 million trips a year involving golf by Canadians is kind of an interesting figure. And of course, with any economic impact study, there's certain sectors that benefit from the economic impact. And it was kind of interesting, they list 5 there, and those are actually in order. Households was number 2, so they were actually able to demonstrate that there's direct economic benefit to households in Canada as a result of the golf industry. I tried to localize that a little bit and talk a little bit about the benefits in Osoyoos. So there's about 60,000 rounds played a year, so that's a lot of sort of customer engagement opportunities, not only for the golf course, but for other industries in town and other services in town as well. Our payroll is around $1 million, and we've averaged about 480 members over the last 5 years, so almost 10% of the town population are members of the golf course. It's kind of interesting. Lots of group visits, lots of tournament visits, and again, those bring lots of economic spin-off to the community in terms of accommodation and in other industries. So we've got quite a close relationship with the tourism industry in town, and there's a lot of joint efforts with accommodation and golf packages and tournaments and golf and accommodation packages, etc. And the other benefit is the contribution to charitable organizations, and a lot of charitable organizations use golf as a fundraising means, and in Canada, a fairly significant figure. So we had 14 outside golf tournaments last year, so those are groups from outside of Osoyoos that come to town with large groups of people to use the facilities and to stay in town. We know that golf actually does attract people to Osoyoos. It's anecdotal evidence, but I know people that I've talked to have located here because of the golf opportunity rather than locating in other Okanagan communities. Obviously, we're able to attract golfers from outside of the community who are here to visit friends or family or bring friends and family with them. There's the employment factor that I mentioned and shared resources with other tourism partners. And I think the aesthetics of the golf course really helps to soften the ponds as well. It is a beautiful setting, and I know from golfing with guests there that they are just absolutely amazed at the views from the golf course and just the beauty of the area. And obviously the use of the town's effluent water is a significant benefit of the golf course being there. So just to sum up, we've had, in my mind, had a very successful partnership right from the beginning, going back to the early 60s. And the partnership has really resulted in significant benefits, not only to the golf course, but to the community, to other industries in town, and to the citizens in terms of the effluent water situation. So we're asking for your help today with this project, and look forward to a continued successful partnership in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your very detailed presentation. I do know that I assume you have at least 50% of the golfers up there are women. I'm hoping, because I do know lots of women that come to town in groups because they want to golf and they want to go to Home Hardware. And though I've heard that so many times, yes, those are the two things that they come to Osoyoos for. So thank you very much. I just had one question before I open it up to everybody else. I know that the concern about is the salt and the water softeners that goes up there. And I'm quite surprised that we're the only golf course that uses 100% of effluent water. I would have assumed that would have been quite common in areas that have this. However, I'm concerned about the problems that you might have with the salt in the water. Obviously, you've outlined that it affects the irrigation tubes and so on. How about the trees and is there a concern there? I'd heard that there was, but it doesn't seem obvious looking at the golf course that there is.
Yes, there is, and the solution to that is selecting the correct species of trees to plant. So over the years, our superintendent and our groundspeople have, through experience and through consulting with arborists, etc., have learned that certain tree species aren't going to do well with that water. So, for instance, we can't plant coniferous trees on the golf course, but there are species of trees that we've found to be successful that are salt tolerant. So it limits what we can do in terms of selection of trees, but we've found a way to get around that.
So I buy potassium chloride for my water softener. It's quite a bit more expensive. I'm hoping that is a better solution. Do you have any idea whether that is better than sodium chloride?
I know there are better solutions out there, but it's a price point issue.
Yes, and, absolutely it is. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah, no Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Member Kordoff. Just a couple of comments. Going back in the history of the golf course, like you outlined in one of your slides there, broadcasting effluent onto the golf course is, how can I put it, ingenious. It was back in the day when it was created, and still to this day remains something that's admired by a lot of communities around. It stops us discharging it into the lake or other nasty things, or having to build, extremely expensive water treatment and sewage treatment facilities and that kind of thing. So it was an ingenious plan at the very beginning and remains that way. We often hear comments from other communities, what a great idea, and a lot of similar comments like that. I'm kind of wondering about the cost. When I first looked at this, I was shocked as to the cost. Are we talking about trenching, or first off digging up and disposing of the old system, and then replanting and putting an entire new system in on only 9 of the holes, the original ones?
That's correct, yeah.
Just for clarity's sake?
Yes, so it's a whole new system, new piping, new heads. I don't know if there's pumps involved. Herb has been more involved with the details of the design, but it's a whole new system for those 9 holes.
Just 9,
Yeah, it seems, boy, that seems costly to me, that 1.58 million or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Just a staggering amount. I understand your ask. I get it, and I see it's probably more than necessary. But I go back to the city of Vancouver, who just allocated $17.1 million to study dog parks in their community. It's mind-boggling. So when you boil down those things to small communities like Osoyoos, a $300,000 ask is a major ask for this community.
Yeah, we fully understand that.
Yeah. So it's going to require some information from our staff about, the practicality of it and, where that funding would come from and that kind of thing. And but I think it's a worthwhile circumstance to move forward with, I think. Certainly that's my opinion anyway.
Good. Understood.
Councillor Campbell.
Hi, thank you. Just out of curiosity, I guess 2 questions. One, are we seeing numbers of green fees or number of golfers increase or decrease over the last handful of years? And 2, are we seeing more youth and young people into the sport?
Well, first of all, generally, actually, information from this study, which was done across Canada, is that the intake and the output are stable when this study was done. So it identified that there wasn't a lot of growth happening, but it wasn't declining either. But it's always a challenge. And in terms of young people, we've put programs in place to get young people interested in the course, and they've been very successful. And that's certainly a growth area for us over the next couple of years. And as the mayor mentioned, another target is providing opportunities for more women to get involved in golf as well. And there's lots of good examples of programs across the country where that's put in place. We do have very good participation now, but I think it is a growth area for the future as well. So,
thank you.
Yeah. So, and in terms of green fears and tournaments and those kinds, so much of it is weather related. We had a very good year last year. This year, not as good as the year before, and we had a very wet spring, smoky weather, flooding, those kinds of things. So it is kind of weather dependent as well. But my gut reaction is that tourism in the town generally seems to be growing, and I think as that grows, the use of the golf course will grow as well. So.
Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess at this time, what was brought to your attention that there was a need to replace these pipes on the 9 holes? Have you had an accident or something? Or?
Well, no, there's been, and maybe Herb can answer this question better than I can, but I think there's probably been numerous issues with pipes leaking and breaking, and it's a very old system. It's 45 years old.
No, I respect
so
that.
Things fail after a while. I don't know if Herb can comment on that or not.
Well,
Yeah.
I think Paul's correct. Our superintendent has identified that it's the constant breakdowns.
Okay.
It's the re-energizing of the system, because we have to shut down 9 holes.
Right.
And then re-energizing, so the water hammer that's starting to happen on our old system is causing, the pipes to break even more.
Okay.
So, we are worried about a long-term, like 4 or 5 day breakdown that could cause us some serious grief up there.
No, I appreciate that. I look at it as preventive maintenance, I think, from the town's point of view. I mean, if we can't put water out for 4 or 6 weeks could be a major impact if it happened at the highest time in the season in the spring. So again, looking at a report from town to see where we could possibly find the money or if it's really a necessity to do so.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Youngberg,
Yep, thank you.
you're a golfer, so you must,
Yes, and I do hear about these little breakdowns from time to time, even though I'm a spasmodic golfer, like I'm not there that often. But we've been involved with the golf course for like 30 years, so it's I really appreciate your planning, and I think preventive maintenance is certainly, as Councillor King says, something really serious that we have to look at. If the system were to break down, it affects our pond substance as well, and we've had a few issues over the years regarding that. So I think we have to work towards finding the money, hopefully, and possibly not immediately, but planning some participation over the next little while. But you've done a great job of research, and all sorts of interesting past history is important in this decision making. So thank you.
so Councillor Rhodes, I'm going to give you the last word on this. Are you okay? We have an agenda to follow here.
Just one more quick question. The other two courses, the other 9, are they separate and unique? And do you anticipate any future issues coming up with either one of those?
Just to correct you a little bit, there's actually 3 more 9s.
Right, there's 36.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So the desert.
Same question, though.
Yeah, no, it'll be the same answer. The Desert Gold course is the most current golf course. It was built with everything in consideration in a fairly modern system. So that system is complete with isolation valves. So if we do suffer a break out there, and you can get a break by, the maintenance people digging where they shouldn't dig and hit it, but they can isolate those 2 or that 18 holes out there. The other older 9, which is called the Meadows, it was built with isolation valves in it. We only have one area where there's about 3 holes that can't be isolated, so they get isolated with the 3 of them. But we feel we're in good shape with all the other holes at this point in time, only because that first 9 was built so long ago.
Okay.
The provincial government has made it necessary for municipalities to plan well into the future now. I'm sure you appreciate that. And,
right.
We have a 5-year plan, so it'd be good to, have that knowledge just in case there's another ask in the future and that kind of thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Good question. Thank you. So thank you very much to both of you for coming and giving us this information. We are doing some budget planning right now, and I'm assuming that this is on our agenda to look at. So we don't need a motion to put it on. It's already on there. Okay, good.
Hey,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to
Brianne, would you just like to go and tell Ryan? I think he's out there. He's that we're have one more item. Sure, thanks. And the next item on our agenda is the museum roof, and I believe this is not on the Quonset hut. This is on the flat roof part of it. So, Mr. Romanko, did you want to speak, or did?
Well, I just got I got an update from
Okay.
Mr. Dinwoody, our Director of Operations, on this, and the guys were there on Friday
Yes.
trying to fix a roof that they feel is unfixable.
Oh.
It's 36 by 58 tar gravel. The problem is it's failing underneath. They don't feel there's value added to fixing the roof. So, there's I guess there are options. I'm not a tradesperson relative to it, whether or not we can build a supplemental roof on top of it, but it doesn't appear that there'd be value added to go into tar and gravel again on the same foundation. So that being said, I don't know what the museum's ability is to move to another site relative to their office archive function. We do have some options maybe, and I don't know what one would be the remaining area here in the old DO building. That is not all leased out to the Desert Sun. So if they wanted to set up a archive working area, that may be possible in there. We'd have to ask them, ask both organizations. A second option maybe would be to take a look at the Cactus Center. The food bank is, and I don't know at what stage they're at. My understanding is that they're moving out of that particular building. Potentially, I know that we use that building in the summertime for the daycare, not daycare, but the day program. However, we probably can, and I haven't conferred with our Director of Community Services whether we can just move that operation to the Sonora Center for a period of time to enable some options to take a look at. Alternatively, we have to take a look at what is a fix, and where do we get the money to fix that.
So could we expect a report then from staff on these options? Is that what you're suggesting?
If that's the direction of council, that is the direction that we will take.
I'm wondering about the vacated fire hall. Is that, you want to use that?
Well, it might be
Okay.
Is
I wondered if that was going to be one of your options to look at, and I don't know.
Not really. I don't know that area is conducive to daily working operation there.
Okay.
And alternatively, our director of operations seems to have moved in there.
Yes, I noticed.
So again, it's something we can take a look at.
Okay. Then I think that would make a suggestion that we have a look at what options are available and talk with the people at the museum too, and just see. Yeah, thank you. Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess my concern through the staff is the roof got a possibility of actually caving in for the safety of the people working there?
I don't know what the the degree of deterioration is. Just the opinion is that it's not worth looking at. So if we, I don't know how it would work in terms of their operations. To have two locations.
And I imagine it's not a good look, but I'm just wondering if you could put some type of canvas over the whole roof so the drainage just goes off. It's not a real solution, but something to get us through a few weeks if we get rain here.
Well,
the red green duct tape plan?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to take a look at it and see what our options would be.
I'm just suggesting as an option.
I'm sure we look at everything.
Our issues are, as we've experienced in the last 3 or 4 days, are the winds.
Yeah, the winds.
Yes.
That make it very difficult for temporary structures. But we could take a look at some options.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there anything else?
Is there a motion to?
Absolutely, Councillor Rhodes.
I'll second.
Okay.
A motion to look at the options and come back with a staff report?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor? Thank you very much. And I believe that's the end of our Committee of the Whole meeting, so we need a motion to adjourn. Councillor King, Councillor Campbell, all in favor? Thank you. We'll take 3